Straw Hut Media.
I'm Dave Foley. Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Hey there, welcome to Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. This week, I'm Jake Hogan, and I host the podcast Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan, which is dedicated to connecting with people and the world around us. I am a writer, producer, director, and philosopher, and I haven't done well at any of those things. So here I'm hosting a podcast thinking maybe this is it. Maybe jumping into the podcast industry right when it's dying is my golden ticket. So if you have any comments or suggestions for me that will make my life even more glorious in the podcasting world, please send it to dbawjaykogen@gmail.com. That's dbawjaykogen@gmail.com. Not coincidentally, DBAW is Don't Be Alone With. And then it's my name, and it's just like the podcast. As always, I remind everyone I started this podcast because I thought there's too much loneliness in the world. I thought technology and world events wind up separating us from each other. And as I said, I wasn't doing too well in my other career, and I just really was turning to this in desperation. So good for all of us. I want to welcome my guest, good friend, probably one of my best friends, and is a guy I've known for a long time, and a guy I probably, if you looked at us on paper, we probably shouldn't be good friends. They're probably there's a list of things that about him and about me that just wouldn't mesh, but somehow it works. My very good friend and a talented comedian, talented actor, brilliant writer, great improviser, Mr. David Foley.
Hello, Jay.
Hi, Dave. How are you?
Jay. No, I'm good, and I have to say, I think comedy trumps all of our potential impediments to friendship.
Maybe, but it's if you
not that I know what those impediments would be, because we have so much in common.
I understand, but just like my growing up in Encino, California, and you're growing up in Cremor. What's the name of that town?
Well, mostly Toronto, but also Cremor for 5 years.
Right. I was in Toronto. I mean, our backgrounds are sort of, what the religion we grew up in, and all this other kind of stuff, different countries, different things. You wouldn't automatically have assumed, oh, they're going to connect. But what's very interesting is we do connect. When we connected almost probably immediately, I think, connected. And that is interesting to me. What do you owe?
Well, I think we also connected to each other's work long before we ever met each other.
That's true too. A huge fan, and you're right. Comedy bridges that gap because I got to see you be really funny, and I guess maybe you got to see The Simpsons or some other work that I did. And
I saw Kogan Wolodarski in the credits, right. And it was one of the only shows that the Kids in the Hall ever watched together.
Oh wow! Well, that's such a big fan of Kids in the Hall, and that's amazing. But do you think that you can tell the intelligence or even or dare I say, the inner workings of somebody just from watching their comedy? Like, does it drift through?
I think so. I think you can. Assuming that, it's easier if they write the comedy too.
Right. Assuming they're writing it.
Yeah.
And that the originator.
But even with someone like Bob Hope, I think even though he didn't write his own jokes, I think you could infer things about him through which jokes he chose to use.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I do get a sense when I watch performers perform and people who create things that I'm getting a glimpse into some part of who they are. And sometimes I can tell right away from their comedy that I don't like that person. like really, like I don't.
Oh yeah,
I do not connect with this person.
That's most of the time.
Yeah, it's often, but it's like, oh no, this person's not a good person. I can even tell. I just feel like they're not a good person. Yeah. And then other times I can see somebody and go, oh, this person, these people, or Kids in the Hall clearly seem like they were thoughtful. They're funny. They're thoughtful. They were inspired by a lot of the same things that I was inspired by. I had a very strong connection to them. I'm not alone in that. The Kids in the Hall is a beloved.
Well, I guess one good thing about terrible people, though,
right,
is that they seem to put almost no effort at all into concealing how terrible they are.
I guess
They most of the time seem really proud of it. So,
potentially. Although I
yeah.
am surprised that some people I thought weren't terrible turn out to be terrible. That happens. That
Yeah,
does
that's
happen
true.
every now and then. How are you? And how is you're doing a brand new show over there in Calgary, Canada?
Well, it's a new show to me.
Right.
Not as an actor, not as a viewer. I was a fan of it.
Right.
But I'm working on Fargo, the television version or series based on the movie.
So amazing. You get to work with the Coen brothers. I'm so impressed. The Coen brothers, like a dream come true for you. I'm so happy that the Coen brothers that found you and picked you out. What? You're shaking your head no? What?
No.
Oh,
no.
Not the Coen brothers?
No, it seems like
Oh.
I think my lifelong desire to know the Coen brothers is continuing to elude me.
But the person in charge of your show is actually a great genius writer anyway. So
yes,
right?
yes, Noah Hawley is a great writer.
Yeah.
Fantastic writer.
I'm impressed by him. He's written novels. He's written all kinds of stuff. He
wrote one of my other favorite TV shows, Legion.
Yes, also brilliant. He's a big thinker.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big thinker.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm having you on the show is if you could ask Noah to be a guest on my show, it'd be great. And
I'll try and get hold of him before he heads back to Thailand.
I thought he lived in the middle of the country. Does he live in Thailand?
He lives in Austin, but he's going to be producing the TV series Aliens.
Oh, very good.
Or is it called Alien? I can't remember. But based on the Ridley Scott movies series.
Great. This time the aliens have landed on Earth. They've married, got a little house on a block, on a suburban block, and they're just trying to make it in this tough world. You know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In Thailand apparently too. So they're
sure.
So there are a lot of scenes on the beach.
Oh, good. I'm guessing there's a lot of tax breaks going on in Thailand.
I'm guessing, yeah.
In Thailand,
and it's a lot warmer than say Calgary.
Right. How cold is it there for you, pal?
Well, today it's -7 Fahrenheit, and it's going to go down to -30 at some point this week.
Oh wow. Well,
yeah.
It's all part of the environment. It's all part of the atmosphere for the show. You need that freezing cold thing. They've never been able to show on movies fake snow and fake cold in any way that's possible. They need the real cold.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Because you know what? All actors are improved by having a runny nose, red ears, and a really lousy disposition.
Right. That's fair enough. So Dave, let me tell you, because the show is about connection and finding connection. So let me say a couple different things. One is you are one of my very best friends, and I want to say that I found connection with you through comedy, but scratching the surface beyond comedy, I found a very smart, thoughtful, caring person underneath, and that can't always be said in comedy. So it really can't be. So how do you find friends, and how do you judge whether they're friends that will lift up your life and be, and not just be a collection of either people that you don't care about or people that actually bring you down?
Well, I in years gone past, I often found friends by getting blind drunk and going out somewhere.
So a shared passion. I would call that a shared passion.
Yeah, because I'd say being the son of an Englishwoman, I found making connections very difficult throughout life.
Right.
But I guess
what was the hard part? What is it about? I mean, obviously, the British are sort of famously pent up and hiding their own emotions sometimes. But what is it about that sort of translate? Because you seem from a very young age to be willing to sort of put yourself out there in a very non-British way on stage.
Well, I think it was a reaction.
Okay.
to my upbringing in a lot of ways. But also like I mean, it was the mix. I had my English mother, who I believe once saw an artist's rendering of a hug, and was upset for days by it.
Right.
And then I also had the alcoholic Irish father,
Right.
who was prone to a lot of weeping and hugging and kissing,
Sure. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good
but not
balance.
prone to any kind of healthy emotion.
No. But I mean,
to go along with
you've
it.
got two different kinds of unhealthy emotions that balance each other out. That's
Yeah,
good.
and I guess and I guess comedy was probably a lot to do with it, because one of the few things that my family bonded over was comedy. One of the few things we would do together was sit and watch comedy.
Who were your parents' favorite comedians?
Well, it was a pretty wide gamut. I mean, one of the things, like, I remember my parents would keep us up to watch Monty Python in its first run.
Wow.
Because in Canada, we got it at the same time that the BBC did.
Wow, that's very hip.
So we got it. Yeah, so I was like 5, 6.
Yeah.
And I was, staying up late to watch Monty Python. And, and then also as a kid, it was like watching shows like, I think, watching MASH, All in the Family, Mary Tyler Moore Show. Like, those were kind of the only real thing that became focal points within the family were shows like that.
That's great. I mean, my family also didn't watch shows together much. I watched shows on my own with my sister, and my mom and dad were out having fun. They were not home. They were not home alone. Then my dad worked on the Carol Burnett Show and worked on Mary Tyler Moore Show and MASH and these kind of things. So he didn't want to see them.
Carol Burnett Show, obviously another show that my family watched. Without fail, we never missed a Carol Burnett Show.
We didn't either, and we actually got to go to the Carol Burnett Show. That was something my mom would take us to, is the Carol Burnett Show, which was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the audience. I got to ask questions of Carol, and that was kind of fun.
Yeah, see, that sort of thing never happened in my childhood.
Right. I'm saying we're different in that one. I would say that
my step grandfather knew Gordie Howe. That was about the closest I ever came to celebrity.
That's pretty big in Canada. That's huge.
Yeah, I never met him, but he knew him.
Right. You ever meet Gretzky?
I did meet Gretzky once.
There, see,
in Winnipeg with all the other kids in the hall. We just got to the hotel, and the LA Kings bus pulled in just as we got in the hotel when we were on tour, and all 5 of us were on the elevator, and someone blocked the door from closing and got on, and it was Wayne Gretzky.
Wow.
We were riding up, and he said, "So you guys doing a show in town?" And we were all very excited. And he said, "Yes, Mr. Gretzky, we are doing a show in town." And then he said, "That's great. What kind of music do you do?"
Lift it up and then smash back down. All right.
Yeah.
Well, how did he think that you were a rock band? You guys looked like the worst rock band of all time. Did you have cases with you and stuff like that? One.
We were 5 guys. We got off a bus.
Yeah, I guess so. All right. I don't. But if your grandfather came back to life at some point, you could throw it in his face. You may have Gordie Howe, but I got Gretzky. And you guys could
but
fight
he'd throw in my face, "Hey, I came back from the dead."
That's true.
You think I'm impressed?
He's always one-upping you, that fucker.
Yeah.
Why is your grandfather always
I'm
one-upping
glad he's
you?
dead.
But I think that that's cool about your parents, that you had that uniting thing about it, and it's of course uncool that they didn't love you in the right way. but almost as cool that you saw Monty Python. I saw Monty Python on my own, like on a TV on PBS. We in the United States, we got Monty Python on PBS a few years after it had aired on the BBC, and we had to sort of seek it out. It was like very late at night. It was hard to find, and I don't even know how I came. I don't believe anybody told me about it. I believe I just came across it and just said, "This is amazing." Yeah. But that can't be right. Somebody must have told me.
I honestly can't remember a time that I wasn't aware of Monty Python. That's how early I was watching it. Like, I don't remember a time before having seen it.
It was a huge discovery for people of, like, I don't know, we were probably 7 years old and or 8, and just like, this is amazing. And we actually had a kid come to school who claimed that his father, he was British, claimed that his father worked on the Monty Python show. And of course, he was lying. He was just British and he just wanted to be liked. So he said that. But
Yeah.
he got a lot of juice for it for a while. So it's like, oh, your dad works on Monty Python. And then at some point, you can see the credits go by and go like, oh, he's not there. There's nobody with his last name on those credits. I got it.
He wasn't, his father wasn't Hazel Pethick?
No, it was not. His father was not. Every show, I take on a little bit of a topic that I want to discuss. And this is, you can tell me if this is true for you or not, but I think a lot of us, our insecurities form around us and we get insecure about who we are and what we, how we appear to the world. And we completely forget that everybody else is living with the same insecurities. So if there's somebody that we like and we want to talk to, or we think they're interesting, we are reluctant because we forget that they're better. They're not better than us. They don't think they're better than us. In fact, they know all their horrible things that are bad about them, all their flaws, and it becomes an embarrassment for who thinks they're worse. So you might as well say hi to somebody or reach out to somebody because, and this is the main thing I want to talk about, not that is, everyone likes being liked. Like if you reach out to somebody and somebody says hello or calls you out of the blue or says, come to dinner with me, or let's go to a show, or what's your name, or just anything, any kind of curiosity, the feeling that somebody's paying a little attention to you and feeling like you matter to somebody lifts you up and then immediately want to like that person back. You automatically, it's actually one of the 7 principles of sales that you do. If you want to sell a used car, pretend you like the customer. You get a buddy relationship going. And that is true in life. If you like somebody, and you just say you like somebody, there's a chance that they're going to like you back. And I think a lot of people are held back by this. I know that kids in Charlie, my son's generation, are reluctant to put themselves out because they're afraid of being rejected. And it's like, well, yeah, you might be, and that happens. But if you really think you might like somebody and you say, hey, I might like you, I bet more often than not you get a more positive reaction. Just on an ego basis, just on the basis of some person is being slathered with a compliment that I'm likable, and that might lead to at least some positive interaction. Maybe not a friendship, maybe not some deep interaction, but maybe that's just enough. Maybe just enough of a lighthearted, I like you, you like me. That's enough. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think there are definitely, celebrities with whom that doesn't apply.
Right. Celebrities are showered with likes.
Yeah. And they might just be assholes to begin with.
Right.
So they don't, because there's also just assholes who, if you express a positive emotion to them, you've devalued yourself in their eyes.
That's true.
And which isn't a reflection on you. It's a reflection on the fact that you've decided to be nice to someone who is an asshole.
Right.
Because there are just assholes in the world.
This is true. True.
Or else most rock bands would never form.
Yes. Do you think being an asshole is the glue that holds all rock bands together? Or is it just?
It helps if there's at least one asshole in each group.
I see. So there's a common point of interest. Everybody can hate Reg.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that.
And it seems to be true in comedy troupes too. But I do think, generally speaking, I do find in real life that when I'm nice to people, they tend to be nice back.
Right. But I mean, you being somebody who's recognizable to a certain core of people, I find cooler people know who you are because they like comedy and they like Kids in the Hall and they like, news radio. That's like, but you're not immune to people coming up and like, oh, Dave Foley, I love your work. And, it's still a nice feeling, right?
Well, yeah, for me, it's a very nice thing. It's and increasingly uncommon. but it is for me. It's always nice because in terms of fame, I said I think being moderately famous is the best.
Yes.
Not financially. Being extraordinarily
right.
famous is the best financially.
Sure.
But in terms of how it impacts your day-to-day life, I think being moderately famous is great because I can go anywhere, do anything I want, and the occasional person will say something nice to me that is unwarranted.
Right.
And
no, it's all warranted. It's bullshit.
But it's not like it's never an impediment to my
right. Well, that's good.
Day-to-day
Although
functioning.
sometimes I'm sure there are times when you have to go somewhere or do something and somebody stops you and it's the wrong time. It's just simply the wrong time, but you're Canadian and you're polite enough to delay yourself to be,
yes,
give back some of the compliments that you're receiving, some of the attention. But if you're not,
I try to when I can.
Of course you do. If you're not semi-famous, then getting somebody coming up to you and saying, I like your work, or I like what you do, or I like you, or just, isn't it interesting we're here at the same, that's a much bigger deal even for that. I mean, it's like that rarely happens. I think it rarely happens that people connect, strangers connect, and that people say, the last time I haven't gotten a call since saying, hey, you know what? We just met and I really like you, since 5th grade. Like when I was a kid, people used to make those calls and say, oh, I like you. You want to be a friend? And you'd say, sure, or something like that. But that doesn't happen when you're, in your late 50s. And instead, it's just you're walking around in the world with the friends that you have. And occasionally see some sort of subtext of I like you can happen, but never like an actual like, hey, we should hang out, or you're cool. It just doesn't happen that often to me anyway.
No, I don't think it happens that often with sober people.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's it.
As I say, amongst drunks, it happens all the time.
Sure, because the id is set loose, and so you can say whatever you want.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, back when I used to live downtown and drink heavily,
right?
I was constantly meeting people who I'd had a profound connection with. I didn't remember who they were, but,
right.
But we'd had a profound connection the night before. We'd had conversations that seemed life altering. And
did you regret not being able to remember it, or were you like cool with not being able to remember it?
Well, I guess I took it in stride.
Yeah. And I've never been, as that's another reason why we wouldn't automatically be friends. I've never been a big drinker. Like that kind of stuff it's not my addiction. My addiction is food. So I'm much more likely to go to some, brownie place that only serves brownies 24/7 than I am to go to a bar. So, and
again, having an English mother, I wasn't likely to become addicted to food.
No, absolutely not. But also the people who are going to the 24-hour brownie restaurant are also full of shame. There's no joy of drinking. There's just like, I need my brownies and I have to get out of here and eat them quietly in the car.
I know the people going into the brothel next door just look and just disgust.
Exactly. Those people should be ashamed of themselves. It's an interesting thing, friendship and connection. It's harder as I get older, but I also see that it's harder for kids, our kids' age too. I don't think it's as free flowing as it was when I was a kid.
No, I guess not. But then again, it also has this artificial enhancement of social media, where you can make friends with people who you physically don't know, you've not been around, you've never seen in person.
Right, and those people that are the physical incarnations of them online are not what they are. It's a curated version of a person and not the person. Yeah. And so even if you bonded with their avatar and they bonded with your avatar, you're still not really having any kind of connection at all.
No, I mean, you might be if you're exchanging real, actually interesting thoughts and feelings and beliefs through social media. You could form a friendship and a bond.
I guess so, but it's even then it's a very, it's a very piecemeal kind of getting to know somebody that without seeing the flaws in that person, without seeing the spittle on their lips or the cough or the misbuttoned shirt or whatever it is, then you're not getting the full sense of that person. You're getting like my avatar, of course, is a unicorn with an incredibly muscular body, naked, also with a very well endowed. And I think that intimidates people.
I can say it's a projection of inner values.
It's true. But Charlie and he makes friends and he connects with people, but all the connections he's really having are people he's actually dealing with on a day-to-day life, people he can actually see and be with. And that's good. And I think people are encouraged to not be with people in real life. People are encouraged to text with each other or type, or other, use social media to contact each other or other forms that are less connective. And I think that's bullshit.
Yeah. I remember when like text messaging on computers first became a thing you could do. And there were people who I had met, but I got to know them in some ways in a deeper level by having online chats.
Right.
Where we were just sharing ideas back and forth. And because you were typing them, you could be more thoughtful about your ideas.
That's true. I mean, but did any of those text relationships become actual real life relationships or people that you hung out with?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
But again, they were people I knew in real life, simultaneous to starting these chats.
Right.
But it kind of enhanced, it meant, I could have conversations with these people who, when we were all in different places. And
right.
But I still think you're right. I think that social media, that was an early phase of social media, text messaging on your laptop. I guess in those days it was on AOL probably.
Yeah.
AOL chat. But yeah, I think for the most part, I think social media now has become more isolating.
Well, I ran a forum at one time called The Stump, and it was just a bunch of people.
I remember
a lot of people who I knew in real life, and some people I didn't know in real life, and they were able to talk to each other in the freedom of a forum, and it was a mixed bag of people being very funny and people being enormously cruel to each other. And so there's the anonymity of not being a face and not having allowed people the freedom to type things that they might not ordinarily say or not ordinarily do, and also the freedom to be inordinately cruel because they're anonymous. They don't have, there's no consequences to suffer. And I think that still holds true to places like Twitter or other places where it's just...
Well, I just yesterday saw, and then I don't follow Madonna on Twitter, but somebody else
What's wrong
that
with
I
you?
followed, I know, but somebody else that I do follow, I posted, retweeted one of her posts, and it was just a picture of her talking about how much better she looks now that the swelling has gone down, and I thought first off, I have no call to be judging Madonna for what she does with her appearance, no call to be giving advice to Madonna on anything at all, ever.
Right.
But I was apparently not like the thousands of other people who thought that they were well within their rights to be extraordinarily cruel.
Right.
To a person they don't know about something that's none of their business.
I think public figures are targets, and and I don't know. I kind of understand in part way that there's an exchange between public figures and an audience, and that audience, the public figure, part of Madonna's thing is part of who she is and her identity is her look and her style, and she's been famously changing her style for time, and so she's gotten a lot of rewards and acclaim for her look. And I guess by the same token, if she suddenly appears looking strange, people think they now have the right to comment on it because they've been commenting on her look for the last 30 years or so in another way, and it's been something she trades on. So maybe that's different, although it's still fucked up.
I don't think her fame generates the hateful nature of the people commenting.
Right. No, I mean,
they're just terrible people that like to attack someone like really cruelly and to feel noble about it, which is the worst part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how they're doing it. I mean, maybe they're actually lifting her up by attacking her, their swollen face. I don't. I think that the cruelty. It's interesting. Like the law even says that public figures are handled differently. But it doesn't mean that it's that gives us that we should be attacking people for things that are none of our business. I mean, I don't know. I don't.
Yeah. Oh no. And look, I think if you're a public figure, you are opening yourself up to it. I'm not saying that isn't a reality of being a public figure. I'm just saying that what it reveals about the people that feel like, that they can be. Because if you think you can be that cruel to Madonna,
right,
you probably think you can be that cruel to anyone that you can get away with being cruel to.
Oh, 100%. I think the door is open to being cruel to anybody all the time. And in fact, the world of trolls is like, let's just be cruel. Let's find a way to make, that's the fuel that burns their fire. That's the cruelty is like the thing they're getting off on. Very few people on the internet are trying to be calm and enlightening and thing because it gets no traction. I have something on the internet called Philosophy Friday. On Fridays, I do this thing where I talk about a life subject and have people talk about it. And we talk with kindness and with thoughtfulness about a subject, and it attracts about 8 people. It's like I've been doing it for like 165 times consecutively, and it's not drawing huge crowds. I like doing it, otherwise I wouldn't do it. But it's not a way to get famous or rich or to attract a lot of people. The way to get famous or rich is to start attacking people and to make other people feel like they have to attack you, and then people like watching the fireworks.
Yeah, or makeup tutorials.
That is the other thing I've been doing nonstop. Does my nose look thinner than it did before? No.
It does.
Okay, good.
It's really
it's working.
It is.
The contour. It's all contour. I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to ask you some questions that have been generated by artificial intelligence because I thought that they would know better than I. The artificial intelligence would know better than I about what it is that we're really trying to get a hold of in terms of our own humanity. So these are questions about our humanity created by a computer. So the way we choose it, I give you the sections, and then you'll give me a number from 1 to 20. And so here are the categories. Your history, like our personal history or your family history, which you've already gone through some. Joy, life challenges, friendship, and curiosity. Also, the last category is strange questions. So, history, joy, life challenges, friendship, curiosity, and strange questions.
Are we going to do more than one category?
We are.
Okay, then I'll start with strange questions.
Everyone does. All right, and pick a number between 1 and 21.
I'll go with 18.
Oh, no. The computer says, if you could live in any country besides your own, where would you choose to live and why? And also, I have to just ask you, what do you consider your country?
I was going to say that's the first consideration.
Right.
What country is my own? Because obviously Canada is my place of birth and I guess my formative years.
Right.
But I've been living in the U.S. for almost 28 years.
Yeah.
So I would say the U.S. is my home. Or more accurately, probably I would say Los Angeles is my home.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm
I
giving
was
New
going
York
to
a
ask you
shot.
this. Like, what hometown? You've lived in a lot of places. LA is your hometown?
It feels like it's my hometown now, yeah.
Okay. And what do you associate with
place.
that, with your hometown? When you say LA, what do you associate with that place?
I think the thing that makes it a hometown is more than anything familiarity.
Right.
And ease of being there,
Right.
I'm not, I've been there long enough that I'm not learning how the city works anymore. I kind of have a basic understanding.
And it took a while to learn Los Angeles, I'm sure.
Oh my God, yes, because it's a terrible city to visit.
Yes,
I don't know why anyone does it.
No, it's horrible. It's spread out. It's impossible to get through. There's nothing really to do here, like specifically.
No.
Yeah.
And none of the interesting bits are open to the public.
That's right. So it's really terrible on so many levels, and yet it's a fun city. There's great,
fabulous place to live.
Yeah, exactly. But when you have tourists come, there's like 8 places you can take them. They're all terrible.
Yeah, they can go to Hollywood Boulevard and just gradually get depressed.
Right.
I mean, it's not as bad as it used to be back in the
Right.
90s,
Right.
but it's still,
It's
you know,
bad.
pretty awful.
Yeah. So LA, and this is my hometown. I was raised here. I wasn't born here, but I was raised here, and I have fond feelings of Los Angeles. I've even of like the history of Los Angeles. Like when a shitty restaurant closes, you go, "Oh, that shitty restaurant closed." I've sad feelings that the restaurant called Dupar's closed in Studio City. Ugh, Dupar's closed. They go
Yeah.
like, I haven't been to Dupar's in 20 years, and it's why it's closed.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was never good.
Right, but it's just a reaction to not wanting change, or being afraid of change.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so
And yeah, I agree. And especially in a city that where there's so much turnover
Yeah.
as Los Angeles.
yes,
And
established
so little survives 20 years.
things that's like established 2007. You go, wow, it's been here a while.
Yeah.
Pretty great. So okay, so if you had to choose a different country other than Canada or the United States, and you might, by the way, I have some bad news. What
Yeah.
would it be?
I don't know. I guess it might be England if it's like to live. Maybe
Yeah.
might be England. Although there's a part of me that would like to say Kenya, but
Okay. Like Nairobi?
no, probably wouldn't want to live in Nairobi. But maybe you know within an hour or two of Nairobi.
All
I
right.
think I'd want to live in the country
Right.
if I lived in Kenya.
Would you not be afraid of just the wilderness and the hippos and whatever, you know?
Oh, much more afraid of the politics.
That's true too. Yeah.
I mean, I spent some time in Kenya, and the animals didn't worry me at all.
It didn't
But
worry me at first,
definitely
and
there were
then
some
until
worries.
there were guards when I was in Kenya, and I was like on safari. I was like, oh, there are guards there. Yeah, they're there to stop the hippos from killing you. It's like,
Oh yeah, hippos will do that.
yeah. It's like then I started worrying about hippos. I wasn't really worried about hippos before that time.
The more people are killed by hippos than lions.
I know lions are apparently lazy, boring creatures, and that's fine by
Yeah,
me.
and they're not that into people.
No,
Yeah.
that's fine. The next category you can choose is from history, joy, life challenges, friendship, and curiosity.
Let's go with curiosity.
Interesting that you would say that. Curiosity has a total of 18 questions, so 1 through 18.
All right, I'll go with 7.
What was the last thing that made you curious, and how did you go about satisfying that curiosity?
The last thing that made me curious. I think the last thing to make me curious in a I'd say relatively profound way has been the modern UFO story.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Now you've always
which is something I've always had an interest in,
Right.
but kind of became more seriously interested in it about 6 years ago.
right. Well, 6 years ago, you tell us tell us the thing that happened that made you very very interested in it.
It was actually watching a documentary called what was it called? Out of the Blue. And now I'm blanking on the director's name, and I shouldn't because I'm a big fan. He also just directed The Phenomenon.
The director Tim Coleman, James Fox.
James Fox.
James Fox. Okay, there you go. Okay, now we're gonna
I
back
should remember
up.
that because he was also one of my favorite British actors, James Fox.
Okay, so you're watching this documentary. Tell us a little bit about it. We're gonna go back and
Well,
we'll
it was- Well, the thing is, I was always interested in UFOs, curious, but kind of never really thought too deeply about it. But thought, well, that's all interesting, and then thought a lot of other things I dismissed as probably being garbage without really thinking about them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say two things. One, I think in '97, the Phoenix Lights incident kind of got me thinking about it a little more seriously. Back then, and I think shortly after that, I read the Cometa report from the French government about UFOs, which basically was a multidisciplinary group of law enforcement, military, government officials, scientists who studied all the UFO reports in France at the time,
Right. So crackpots.
and put out a
Okay.
they put out a report that basically said UFOs are real, and extraterrestrial hypothesis is the most likely explanation.
Okay.
And that was coming from the French government.
Right. Who hate everything. And then they immediately talked about how they hate the aliens and how they're so
they didn't like them showing up in their restaurants.
Exactly. They have no manners. They have no culture. These aliens.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they
so
complain about the coffee.
But then, didn't you wind up actually seeing something in your history?
Well, that's way later.
Okay.
But I was saying that I watched the James Fox documentary, and it was the first documentary I'd seen that really presented me like a pretty sort of compelling history of the modern UFO era, but also had a lot of data and research and interviews with credible witnesses, people in the military, and just a lot of stuff that was hard to ignore.
Right.
And so that got me thinking about it more seriously. And then a few years after that, the New York Times article came out, which about the sort of secret Pentagon programs that were studying UFOs, and admitting that they were real.
Right. But they didn't admit that they're extraterrestrials, but they admit that there are these things that we can't explain.
Yeah. Well, no one. I don't think that's the thing. Is most. Yeah. No, they don't claim that it's extraterrestrial. Right. But they don't dismiss it, and it is really it is actually one of the explanations that they take most seriously.
Right.
But they don't talk about it.
Did the UFOs that were shot down over Canada make big news here in Calgary?
Oh yeah, I think everyone was talking about them, which is kind of disappointing because they're so boring.
Right.
Other than as I said, the thing that got me about it was that it shows exactly the highlights the difference between when it is something we really can explain and know about, how it gets covered and how it gets discussed by everybody involved.
Right.
As opposed to a real mystery, which the media will do their very best to ignore, and which the military will try not to have to discuss.
Right, which is a mystery. Like, why do people think Red Skelton was funny? That kind of mystery.
Yes.
Yeah. Still unexplained.
Yeah. Inexplicable, or Milton Berle for that matter.
Oh, that's true. He was mean. There was another guy that was an asshole. Milton Berle. He was.
Yeah.
I met him when I was a little kid, and he was mean to me. It's like very strange. Why'd be mean to a little kid? No one knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was mean.
Yeah, I'm sure Red Skelton was nice, but boring as hell.
I don't know. Yeah, he seemed. It was very dull, very dull. And I've heard stories where he wasn't so nice. So I don't know.
Oh well, there. But he always ends with "God bless."
Yes, I know, and it's completely insincere. You can tell by the way he says "bless." That's not how he talks.
He doesn't want God to bless us.
Do you? So, but talk about what you saw. So you saw a UFO.
Right? I did. Yeah, after years, this was.
If you're comfortable talking about it,
just over a year ago. Yeah, I saw a UFO. Just a couple hours outside LA while I was visiting a friend, my friend Jeremy Corbell, who is a UFO researcher and documentary filmmaker, and now podcaster.
Wait, other people are doing podcasts?
Yeah, not many.
Okay,
not many. I think you're in the first 30.
Thank God. Because I don't want to just enter into a field with a lot of podcasts and stuff. I want to how am I ever going to get seen and noticed?
I know. It's weird. I mean, I was really into podcasts back when they were something that you had to be able to write the RSS something code into it and have an app that could read them. And
not anymore.
It's changed a lot.
Dummies like me can do it.
But what was I saying?
So you saw the UFO
so
with your buddy.
We were out walking his dog,
right.
And it was a very clear, beautiful night. And I was watching the commercial air traffic off in the distance, going back and forth, and just thinking what a clear night it was, and how easy it was to see everything. And I actually said to Jeremy, I said, "This would be a good night to see something." And within a few minutes, Jeremy said, "Dave, turn around." And I turned around, and we saw this really bright orange object in the distance. With 3 white lights on the front of it. And again, I'm assuming it was the front because that's the direction it was moving.
Sure.
And we watched it to sort of do a sort of a, I would say it went from like what I'd say was like 2 o'clock in the sky around to about 7 o'clock or 8 in the sky.
Right.
And we both just watched it, and I kept thinking all the time. We kept getting closer and closer. I was in my head. I was going, "Well, this is going to get closer, and we'll realize it's something boring. Once it gets closer, we'll realize it's something." And it kept getting closer and closer, and then it kind of hung very near us in the air for a while, and realized it wasn't making any noise, and then it sort of hovered over the mountains for a bit, and then it just went behind the mountains. And it was, as I said, it was this bright orange thing that was, the orange part was glowing, the body of it was glowing, and the lights on the front of it, the white lights, were also pulsing at a different rate. And the weirdest part about it, more than just seeing what was clearly not a human craft.
Right. That seems pretty weird right away. So, okay, what's the weirdest part?
The weirder part was that it seemed to be in control of how we responded to it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because here you've got, I'm somebody who's really interested in the subject, and always thought it would be fantastic to see a UFO.
Right.
And when I'm actually seeing it, dead calm, no emotion, like really like flat emotionally. Right. And Jeremy, who's made his life's work researching UFOs and trying to expose the truth about UFOs, whatever it is. He watched the whole thing also in silence, except at one point when he said, for no reason, unprompted, he said, "I'm not even going to try to take a picture."
Yeah. Wow.
Which is a weird thing to say. And it's weird that I didn't respond to it.
Right. And had he seen a UFO before?
Never.
Yeah. Wow, it's remarkable. I think I'm going to feel that way the first time I see a vagina. I'm going to see one, and not be able to speak or say anything. Want to take a picture, but not be able to take a picture. And you're
going to be afraid to tell people about it
exactly.
for fear of them saying you're insane.
Right. So I mean, I feel you. I feel like we're connected on this. 100%.
Yeah.
That it's fascinating, and it's almost too coincidental to that story is like, oh, how crazy. The only reason I don't call you a fucking lunatic is I know you, and so it feels like so coincidental, it can't possibly be true, but I know it's absolutely true. So it's
well, and here's what brings up an interesting thing about the UFO story is that it's the one area where if somebody who's unimpeachable reputation and very respected throughout their entire career and lives, maybe in the field of science even, has done amazing work, maybe has cured diseases, and really comes out and says, "I saw a UFO," the response is, "All the other stuff you did is bullshit too."
Yeah, because people are scared. They're scared that it's real.
They go, he's a lunatic. That doctor, the guy cured cancer. Don't take his drugs. He believes in UFOs.
Yeah, I guess the thing I would want is, I understand that there might be people who visit, beings, extraterrestrials, who visit other places and don't make themselves too known, or go and try to make themselves known, but I guess you'd think that there'd be more of an impact somehow, and maybe I used to watch the shows in the 70s where they'd say that the aliens built pyramids or they left their mark here or there, and they're like, maybe, but like I want to see the technology that's the alien technology dropping and lifting us somewhere.
Yeah, no, I think most of the ancient alien stuff is mostly bullshit.
Right. That's what it seemed to be.
Because I remember having discussions with Joe Rogan back on News Radio days. And even then I said, look, I believe aliens built the pyramids if there was one light bulb in there.
Right. That's exactly. Now that guy should do a podcast. I mean, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
He would go places.
But but I guess that's the thing with UFOs is just it is that was it like all you have to do is say call someone a UFO believer
Right.
in our culture, and everything else about them will be dismissed.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, for sure. Although I think there are enough people that are open-minded about, we don't know. I mean, here's another thing
I'd say only in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think is that becoming the case.
Being part of not being alone, bringing it back to not being alone in the world is to be open to the world. And part of it being open to the world is to being open to the idea that you don't know everything. And matter of fact, you don't know anything. I subscribe deeply to the fact that I don't know anything. I really don't. I mean, whatever knowledge I have is surface and changeable and fungible. And what I think I know about history, I probably don't know really what about history. And the things I think I know about science, I'm probably, science is changing all the time. So we don't know. We don't know what's happening. And I'm willing to sort of buy into what the latest is and be willing to change that too.
But if in the premise of the podcast, if you want to avoid being alone,
right,
you should avoid ever holding opinions that aren't in keeping with the group.
No, find other people who share your opinions. That's a true friendship, as opposed to like living in your horrible shell of a lie, which also, as you say, does work. I mean, let's be honest, living a shell of a lie.
It seems
to
be the predominant mode, really.
Right. No, I'm going for authenticity. I'm trying to be much more authentic. Like when we first met, I don't know, I think we were friends, but I think I'm probably at least 20% more authentic. 20%, at least I don't care about what other people think as much as I did back then. I've grown to care less. Not that I don't care at all.
I guess it's hard for me to qualify because I thought so well of you that I don't think you had to conceal anything.
Right. No,
from
but
me.
I mean, but I would love to impress the kids in the hall and like all that would matter to me in some way, shape, or form. These are my certainly comedy idols, and I love comedy, and it was so important to me. I want to be liked by you, but also even the bad ones, even the bad kids in the hall. I want to be liked by them all. And by the way, it is worth saying here in this podcast, which may be listened to by no one or 10,000 people, that the latest incarnation of the Kids in the Hall show on Amazon is genius. I mean, unbelievable. It's the best redoing of any show I've ever seen in my life, and in a way that I'm sure, and I know it was not easy to do, and there was struggles, but how smart of you guys to acknowledge your age, acknowledge where you are now, but still carry the vibe of what you guys were and how you've matured into now. It was the perfect. It's for a guy who's looking at 60. It's how I hope I live my life. It's sort of like I carry the child within me. I carry the silly comedy nerd within me, but I'm also older. And you guys were older, but you didn't lose a step in what's funny or what's sharp or what's interesting. And I think actually some might say that their sketches and things in that are better than the original. They're certainly different. And so, my hat's off to you. Hats off to you, brother.
Thanks.
Great job.
Well, I think we're collectively, I think we're all proud of it.
Yeah.
And
you should be.
And I think definitely. I think our the kind of comedy we always did was a lot of it was based on self-examination.
Right.
So I think that maybe that made it easier for us to still seem like us.
It did. It felt like
because we look at ourselves.
Yeah, it felt like you, and it was special, and I had meant to send an email out to all of the kids to congratulate them. I never did, but I will at some point. It's
the withheld thought that counts.
Exactly. But really, that was an amazing achievement, and
thanks.
And it remains. It's interesting that Kids in the Hall was always extraordinarily popular and niche at the same time. Somehow everybody I knew loved it, but it's not like everybody in the world always knows Kids in the Hall. And the show that came out on Amazon kind of feels the same way. I know we wish that it was like, The Last of Us. It was like a gigantic hit, but it's still incredibly well received. It's winning awards, and it's also, still hitting a very specific audience that loves it. So, you guys have to broaden out into being dumber, I think, ultimately.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I don't think we're getting another kick at the can, so I don't think we'll have a chance.
You might. So now it's time for viewer mail. So what's going to happen here is a jingle will be playing, and we're going to listen to the jingle. It's a terrible jingle, by the way, so grimace when you hear it. Okay, it's a terrible one. All right. Pretend you're hearing a terrible jingle.
Listener mail.
Okay, so that horrible jingle means it's time for listener mail. Although it is viewers, so maybe there's viewers here.
Doesn't that jingle discourage you from doing the segment?
It does. Normally, I might just drop the whole thing so I don't have to hear that jingle anymore. But we'll see. No, it's actually a fine jingle written by Max Pross's son, Isaac. And so I thank Isaac for it. Although I paid good, hard American dollars for it. And, you get what you pay for. I didn't pay that much. Here's the question. Dear Jay and guest, that's you, Dave. What are some tools you use to step out of your comfort zone and put yourself out there in the world? Signed, Immortal Warrior Angel. So, Immortal Warrior Angel sent it. Now, I have a question. I don't know who Immortal Warrior Angel is, but I love that. I would like to, at some point, have that listed on my resume. Immortal Warrior Angel.
It sounds exhausting to me.
It is, but no more exhausting than writer. I think that's also exhausting.
I would go with occasionally going for a stroll, Angel.
That'd be good. So what are some tools you use to step out of your comfort zone and put yourself out there in the world? Do you have that? Does that ring a bell to you?
Yeah, I don't think that I have any really good tools for it. I think I'm still really reluctant to step out of my comfort zone, especially socially.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, again, like since quitting drinking, it's been kind of an experiment in finding out, well, how do I socialize now?
Right. Well, and how do you, without the booze?
How do I encounter new? But for the most part, it's been fine.
Right.
It hasn't been really that different. But I don't think I have any real good tools for it, except occasionally, because I have a tendency to want to just stay home all the time.
Right.
I'm pretty self-contained in a lot of ways.
Right. But if you needed to, you would, you're a guy who's a risk taker when you want to be, when you need to be. So I feel like you're willing to step out of your comfort zone for that, or at least, that isn't necessarily your comfort zone.
Yeah. Well, I think it's in part. I have gotten to a point in my life where I care. I was always pretty oblivious to people I disagreed with.
Mm-hmm.
If I did, I never took people's opinion. If I didn't like any of their other opinions, I didn't usually take their opinions about me too seriously.
Right.
But now that I'm older, I guess I'm less concerned about what people think of me.
Yeah, that's what I feel that too. I don't really care much at all what people think of me, in a good way. I still want to be kind, but I
I know everything. I just go, well, this wasn't so great, but I'm going to be dead soon.
Right.
So it's really not important to me.
But you're the kind of guy, like you say, you're not a person to step out of your comfort zone, but you move. You move cities. Sometimes you moved to New York recently. You jumped up naked on TV in a very raw kind of way. You take risks, and sometimes I think you relish it sometimes, and you go for that. I do think that's part of your who you are.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's harder for me to perceive externally because I know inside I'm still the guy who dreads walking into a room full of people he doesn't know.
Right. Well, that's true.
And I'm still terrified of singing in public.
Right. Well,
never
you should
really
be.
Over that.
Honestly, you should be. Make sure that you do not sing in public. I will say that as somebody who cares about you.
But then again, I did do a Christmas special where I sang 2 songs.
I remember that Christmas special you did in a sort of David Bowie, Bing Crosby kind of way. It was very magical.
Yeah.
I like that Christmas special.
Yeah, but that's something that terrifies me. But
all right. Well, I would say I feel like I have to push myself to be out of my comfort zone, and the tool I use is fear of being of if I don't do it. Really. So I use fear to eject me into some other thing that I wouldn't ordinarily do. And I'm inclined, like you, to stay home and keep everything the same. But I know if I do that, I'll stagnate and die. And so I have to eject myself into life and try that. So if I can just keep the part of me in my head that says, oh, if everything stays the same and this is all there is, I might as well die now, to then go do something that I wouldn't ordinarily do. I also I look forward.
And I also
go ahead.
No, I was going to say I also have a lifelong tendency to fall into depressions.
Right.
Which is so in part, I keep that in mind now.
Right.
When I go, well, really, I should get out and do something.
Right. And that's one way to fight depression is to just get out into the world and do something and take your mind off of stuff and like let the chemistry balance itself out in ways, So I'm never depressed because I have that 24-hour brownie store that I can go to at any time of the day or night. And it is boom, happiness in a little brown bag. It's beautiful. But I think that people should, if you can acknowledge that you're stuck in a zone, you can push yourself out of it and know that you'll experience something you never would experience otherwise, which is all that matters anymore at this point is having life experiences.
Yeah.
And then B, you'll have bragging rights later on to tell people, hey, I did this thing. So there's an afterglow of stepping out.
Yeah. Well, I guess I did do one thing that was outside my comfort zone, in a way, that has been remarkable, which was like, as I talked to you about, was doing ketamine therapy this last summer.
Yeah. Tell people about that because it's a lot of people. I certainly didn't know about it until you did it, but that ketamine therapy, I actually saw 60 Minutes did an interesting thing about it recently. But tell people about your experience.
Well, I like when I moved to New York, I actually went into a very, I stepped out of a comfort zone, but it threw me into a very deep depression, amongst other reasons. But I was very depressed when I was in New York, and I've been on antidepressants pretty much since the late 90s. I've been on antidepressants, and I had decided several months earlier, before I went to New York, that I was going to get off the ones I was on. So I was off of those, but then I went into this very deep depression, and then I went and I started reading about ketamine therapy and psychedelic therapy in general, but ketamine therapy is the only one that's illegal in the United States because it was invented by a pharmaceutical company instead of growing on a tree. So I went and did it, and I did 4 sessions, and I thought, I don't know, I don't know if it's going to work. The sessions were interesting. Mm-hmm. And I like the theory behind it, which is that you're creating neuroplasticity, and then in between the sessions, you're supposed to focus on avoiding the behaviors that you don't want locked into your patterns of behavior.
But let's slow that down. It's this it's this drug that, like you're saying, neuroplasticity, allows your brain to change in a faster way than it normally would. The brain is plastic, but allow your brain to change in a faster way than it normally would. And therefore, if you take this ketamine and have these therapy sessions, their big advice to you is do things that make you happy, right?
Because what you're doing is you are changing the biomechanical mapping of your brain.
Right. And so you're making new pathways to joy.
There's a physical thing that happens in your brain.
Right. And you did it.
But when you're in that heightened plasticity period between the sessions, you want to avoid doing things that cause you stress and pain and or like, for example, if you don't want to drink, don't drink when you're in between, because that'll get locked in. Whatever you do
Right.
In between the sessions, that behavior can get locked into your brain as the plasticity lessens. And and so it was interesting, and and you do it in collaboration with talk therapy as well. But then after the fifth session, it just suddenly, like, everything lifted.
Wow. Yeah.
And it stayed there. Now we're like 7 months later without any other antidepressants. I'm still there.
That's great.
And the most interesting thing to me was that I suddenly, after that fifth session, had a really clear third person view of myself and my own history.
Right.
And
you're able to be,
knowing, not dissociated from it, but
objective.
Able to look at it as though it's somebody else.
You had an objective view of yourself that you might not have, didn't have before that.
Yeah, and zero incentive or desire to defend any past behavior.
Right. Right.
And able to just look at it and go, "Oh, that was weird. I wonder. I wouldn't do that again."
Yeah, I like that. I like also how you describe it as not really. It's non-judgmental either. It's sort of like, oh, that was what I was doing, and I don't have to do that now.
Yeah, because the problem with therapy, for the most part, is you get confronted with things that you don't like about yourself, and then you spend most of your time convincing your therapist and yourself that what you did was really fine.
That's. My therapist wouldn't put up with that, which is why I stopped seeing that therapist. But yes, I've convinced myself I'm fine.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, but I think it's essentially it's like a kind of a way of leapfrogging cognitive therapy. I think.
Right.
Cognitive behavioral therapy, because your strong instinct to defend past behavior and find justifications for it is gone. Because you don't see it anymore as being connected to you.
Well, I've seriously considered doing it, even though I don't have Great Depression. I would like that freedom of that objective view of myself for the next, for the rest of my life. It'd be nice to have that, which is the next 2 or 3 years, to really just have that freedom.
It's great for PTSD. It's fantastic for that, which I had a lot of from various relationships over the years.
Right.
But it's also just, when you create that neuroplasticity, it's also great for getting over addictions. It's great for, it's been really effective in curing drug and alcohol addiction.
Yeah. Well, Dave, we've come to the end of our show, and we end our show with yeah, we have.
Did we cover anything you wanted to talk about?
No, we're gonna have to do it again. This has been fine, but we'll do it again. But we end the show talking about something that brings you joy. So, and I'm going to talk about something that brings me joy. So, think about, with this new ketamine-addled brain of yours, what brings you joy these days?
I would say probably my single greatest source of joy is my daughter, Alina.
That is a good source of joy. She's very talented. She's also really funny and really smart. And she's going to school at Sarah Lawrence, right?
Sarah Lawrence, yeah.
And she's great. She's an actress and a singer-songwriter sometimes, and I don't know what else she's doing. Does she have any new things that she's doing? Or is it
the singer-songwriting? She's she was taking a course in the neuroscience of happiness.
Very good.
She's also taking a theater design course.
Yeah. Fabulous. See, she's my goddaughter, so I take credit for all the good things that she does. She just happens to.
I can't. I certainly can't.
You and Chrissy have nothing to do with it. It's the blessings underneath the Godfather that I am that I bestowed upon her. All these things. Mm-hmm. My joy to this week is I'm very, and this is I haven't done this yet with the guests. I'm very joyful for my friend Dave Foley, and I'll tell you why. I love this guy very deeply. I feel like he knows who I am, and I feel like I know who he is, and I feel like I literally can share anything with him, and despite not us having ketamine between us, be judged. I believe that there's just a very solid good friend in a world where there aren't always solid, good friends all the way around. So thank you, Dave, for being my very good friend. And I love you. And you bring me enormous amounts of joy. And I miss you.
I miss you too, and I also want to point out that this is I'm finally in a place where I can hear someone tell me they love me without bursting into tears.
Okay, good. I just think I didn't do it well enough. I'll get you there. If I push hard enough, I'll get you to fucking cry because you're a crybaby.
Oh, it's true.
Okay. Anyway, this has been Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. If you have something to write to us, a question, a comment, something that you want us to answer on the air, please write to dbaw, JAYKOGEN at gmail.com. And Dave, yes?
I did one more thing to your viewers / listeners is if you don't have a friend like Jake Hogan, you should do your very best to find one.
So you would say that you could actually be alone with Jake Hogan and it's fine.
It's one of my favorite places to be.
Good. All right, good. Well, then the lawsuits, people can drop those fucking lawsuits because it's okay to be alone with Jake Hogan. Thank you again. And this has been great. And everybody, we'll see you next time.